That's that real talk. It's time to heal. Nothing but the truth. We got that real talk. That's that real talk. It's time to heal. Nothing but the truth. We got that real talk.
Welcome back to episode 3 of Real Talk Uncensored. We're back again. We've got some real hot topics that we're going to be discussing today. As usual, we've got our panel here, our guests. My name's Shola, founder of Real Talk Mentors. We're all about intergenerational healing. And the way we do that is by communicating, by getting real, just getting together and just really giving it as raw as we can possibly get. So when we talk about intergenerational healing, we're talking about communication between the younger generation and the older generation. You know, bridging that gap of linking up with each other, being able to discuss on a real level. And so we're here today with different sides of the generation to look at manhood. We're also going to be looking at womanhood, and we're also going to be looking at the family, what it means to be in the community. So without further ado, I'm just going to introduce our members of our team, the Real Talk Mentors team. To my right, we have here Venice.
Hi, my name is Venice.
Ali, well gone. Yeah.
Okay.
And my name's Jade.
Yeah, my name's Jorian. Yeah.
Welcome, Jura. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, so we said from the off, didn't we? We want to talk raw. So
Yeah.
the first thing we're going to go into really is manhood. What is it to be a man? Now, this is going to be a topic that I'm sure there's going to be a lot of debate about, a lot of controversy, different ideas floating about. But like I said before, we just want to be real. That's what we're all about, real talk. We're not skirting things, putting things under. We just want to be very clear, glean some different experiences and take. So I'm going to start off let's start from a woman's point of view. Even though we're saying it's manhood, we'll start from the woman's point of view. I want to come to you first, Venice. And just ask you what your take is on this whole perspective of what it is to be a man. We've kind of gone back to front, I know, but
Yeah.
what would you say? What's your first thought?
I think from the old, for me, I would say being the provider. If we're talking about like in a family home, being the provider, being the person that looks after the family, looks after the wife, their children. Being the security.
Okay. Right. So these are, like I said, there's no right or wrong here. Everyone's got their take. I mean, some of the points you brought there, they're more traditional, sort of generational values, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which really shouldn't go for any reason. But, that's the kind of bog standard take of what it is. Ali, what would you say? You're a man, young man in yourself. So obviously I think you've got a few more deeper points to raise there.
Yeah, it's a bit similar to, obviously in society it says we've got to be the provider, the protector, but then there's the other side where you have to be alpha, or so they say, alpha.
What is this? I mean, sorry to cut. What is this alpha thing? We keep hearing this bandied about. What is this alpha thing all about? What is it?
To be fair, there's some toxic traits when it comes to the modern day alpha.
Okay.
But it's just like, most people will say if you don't do certain things as a man, then you're not an alpha male, do you know what I mean? Or if you show emotion, you're not alpha, and things like that. And not being able to, I don't necessarily agree with it. I understand it, but then at the same time, it's like you can argue that fact, if that makes sense.
Okay. So again, you brought up some good sort of generational topics there, some areas of it. But I want to throw this over to a younger gentleman, Jorian. Great to have you with us today.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I ask you this thing? Because I hear this word on the street. They say if a guy, for example, shows emotion, Ali's just mentioned about showing emotion. Is it kind of, they say, what's that word? They say, is it, a man's moist. If he's not, not, you know what I mean? If he's expressive.
Yeah, moist. Yeah.
Is that right?
That word gets thrown around, definitely. I feel like amongst our peers, but more so, I know amongst me and my friends, we just throw it around as a joke, kind of thing. But it ties into the culture. I feel like in terms of manhood today, I feel like, me personally, I feel like if you can articulate your feelings and word it, that makes you more so of a man.
Definitely.
I feel like, but I feel like just amongst us, sometimes even I'm guilty of it. You might, like, your boy might come to you, be like, oh, I feel feeling the type of way. You just look at him like, yo, what's going on, man? Like, pattern up, like, you're moist, like, you're moist, like, just like, just fix up. But obviously, I think that's perception as well, that we kind of, we embody, but we need to kind of get past that as well.
So how do we get past that? Because it's good to hear that from your perspective, from a young person. And this is what when we talk about this healing, it's only going to be from situations, from forums like this, where we can talk openly, and actually express, isn't it? And I think from a man's perspective, because we're trying to hone in more on the men now. From a man's perspective, when we don't show that emotion, when we don't have that kind of vulnerability, does that make you any less? Okay, your guys on the street now. Does it make you less of a guy if you're opening up about certain things?
I don't think so, because regardless if you're vocal about it, everyone goes through it. You know what I mean? Like, just because you don't mention something doesn't mean that you don't go through something.
Sure.
So I feel like it's just, if you're hiding, you're more so hiding from yourself. I feel like you're not trying to accept that aspect of your personality.
Sure.
Where if you can just wear it on your sleeve and that's me, that's me. Like,
Okay.
That's the way I kind of see it.
Okay, great. You know what? We've only talked to 3 people so far, and we've gone. It's like we've made a zone right in. So, last but not least, Jade. I know you've got a few words to say on this topic. You know, we've talked differently offset and so on. What do you?
Well, in terms of like what I think it means to be a man, it's like near enough what Bernice and Ali have said, like provider and, you know, someone that makes you, someone that makes the family feel secure and all of that. And I would say more like the first in command within the household. Do you understand? Like, so I think when the wife also looks up to, is someone that she looks up to.
Respects.
She respects, and someone that, she can go to. Obviously, she looks after her children on the daily, but there's obviously certain things that a woman might not be able to deal with, where she needs to speak to her husband, or the husband needs to come in, or the man needs to come in and deal with what's going on in the home. But then what you were saying, Julian, about like not being able to like speak about certain things with like man to man and type of things, and I would say like the effects of that can be very detrimental. Do you get what I mean? Like we hear that like men, more so black men, the mental health issue aspect of it, like when people don't talk to each other, it just homes in on a lot of more issues. You know what I mean? Like I've even been in situations where I feel like I have to speak to my friend in order to kind of clear my thoughts on certain things. And I just can't imagine how it would feel for me if I felt like I couldn't go to my friend, I couldn't go to another man, I couldn't go to my brethren, someone that's supposed to be, you know, and I can't talk to him, or I go and talk to him and he says like, what gone for you? Like, you're sounding a bit moist, you're sounding a bit, do you know what I mean? Like, that would be very painful, and I think it would do a lot to my self-esteem, and it would do a lot to my mental health, because I would say that what keeps me going is to be able to talk to somebody. Like, I talk a lot. Like, I talk a lot.
Really?
Do you know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah. So I do. That, when I like behind the scenes, maybe not now, but whatever behind that, I talk a lot to my friends and stuff like that. And I do a lot of thinking, and I do a lot of, you know, it wouldn't appear like meditation, but in my own way, in my own way, I would say that's meditation. So I would say that, it's what it means to be, and I think also, like I think men like, well, not even just men, women or whatever, people like to shame each other, and then I don't believe in that, because it doesn't, when people go wrong, when we're not perfect, do you know what I mean?
You've said, you brought a lot of things to the forefront, and I think one of them is, it's about perception, it's about how men are thought of and what we're supposed to do. Yeah, so I want to bounce it back to Ali. What's this expectation of how a man is supposed to be? Is that something that's kind of filtered into is it kind of cross-generational? I'm saying, is it something that how it was thought of before? Is it still the same status quo now?
Kind of, but more so it's more people, I think it's more looked at from a materialistic point of view than a traditional point of view, if that makes sense. So
Do you think that brings pressure then? Because saying that, I mean, obviously, look, if a man, to be able to provide, there's got to be work, hasn't there?
Yeah.
So if a man's not working, if there's no income, if there's no resources, then the provision aspect, that's gone out the window. So if that's the case, how does that then affect the whole setup? How does it affect the relationship? How does it affect the family? What does that do to a guy's self-esteem?
Well, it depends on the type of, I don't want to single out females or anything like that, but it depends on the type of partner you might have, innit? And that's male or female, like, do you know what I mean? If a man's dealing with a woman or a woman's dealing with a man, do you know what I mean? It depends on the type of person you have that's going to keep you encouraged to want to do better. Like, you can't have someone that's going to pull you down when you're at your lowest, do you know what I mean? Like, because the home's supposed to be a happy place, you're supposed to have a happy home, right? So if you're out here getting rejected from an interview and going home it's going to be a problem, like, where do you get that sense of encouragement or like drive to want to go and do it? As men, we're supposed to have our own drive. Yes, I get that, but you still need
Everybody's supposed to have their own.
Yeah, you still need that push though, like from it,
Motivation.
especially if that person's with you. That's supposed to be that's supposed to be your best friend, basically. If your best friend's pulling you down, how you going, and you can't talk to your peers, like, what happens? You just feel a sense of pressure. Do you know what I mean? But it takes, I don't know, it just takes a strong person to keep persevering at the same time. But it's not easy when you have the status quo in today, in 2020, of what a man should be doing and what he should be providing. And it's always from a materialistic point. I'm not saying all women look at men like this, but it is from a materialistic standpoint.
Yeah. Let me be a bit controversial, because I think at the moment, I think we're playing a lot on what a woman's expectation is of a man. What I want to get to the core of this is, as in, what's a man's expectation of himself? Yeah, how should a man project himself to then be able to go into a relationship? Yeah, to be able to work, aspire, you know what I mean? To be able to achieve, because when man is formed, a man shouldn't be a man's primary source just to be the provider for a woman. Yeah, a man has got to be a man in his own right. Yes.
Yeah.
You agree? Yeah. So let's peel back a bit, because I think at the moment we're dwelling on, you know what I mean, how it, from a woman's perspective, as a man, yeah, in terms of man's values, what's the take? What should we be doing?
Do you think that's this new generation? Because if you really think about it, like our great-great-grandparents, they used to, like the women used to look after the children, clean the house and cook. And then the men, they used to go to work, come back, relax and eat.
I beg to differ.
In this day and age, I think if you think like that, it's no generation, it's just stupid people, man. Like, in my opinion, I think, bro, if you can't cook, clean for yourself, like, bro, like, come on, man, fix up, like, literally, that's necessity, literally.
A lot of people are now, like, there's not a lot of relationships, so to get where I'm coming from. So back in the day when couples used to be married, everyone had their set duties. There's no marriages. There's none of that now.
Yeah, before you ever came before you got into any form of relationship, as you said, there were certain things that you should have been doing.
Your parents would have told you to clean your room. Your parents would like teach you how to iron, all of that stuff. Your parents would do that, like, do you know what I mean? Like, so as a man, I think you got to have a perception of oneself in it before you can even think about being with anybody else in the first place. Do you know what I mean? Like, so once you understand who you are, that energy, you're going to put it out there. So you should attract the right person to you.
And that's the key word. That's the key word you said there about attracting. Because if you've set yourself in a certain way, then chances are you will attract, that kind of like-minded person. I mean, obviously, it's not always going to be. That's not always going to be the case, but in most cases, it would be. I mean, as you said, from a young guy's point of view, you said some key points there during that. We should be doing certain things anyway, shouldn't we?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Why do we expect it to be less or different just because we're now in a relationship? Why should it not, as you said, Jade, why should it now be a case of, the man doesn't want to cook or he doesn't want to clean? If I'm hungry and my wife's not in, I'm going to the cricket. I'm not in.
Yeah.
Sitting
I'm
there
not-
and starve
But then,
for
funny
that.
enough, there is something out there that will sit there and
yeah.
wait for the woman to come.
But this is what I'm trying to
do-
get to. Is that perception? Is that a perception? Is it something that's been ingrained into them, or is it a case of
That's
you know?
what's an idea? That's an
Ideology.
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 No, but it depends because everyone's raised different as well, though.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you see, like, if you're in the house and you don't see your dad doing nothing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're gonna think that's the way to be in it,
I'm
like
not supposed to
to
do
a
it.
degree.
I'm
Like
not-
even though your mom's telling you tidy up and all of that stuff, you're not seeing your dad do anything. So then, how do you then know when you get to that age and you're with, again, we're going back to being with someone. How do you know that you're supposed to do things? It should just be something in your mind. Yeah, I'm supposed to do stuff for myself. I should be self-sufficient. I should be self-reliable. All of these things. That should just be a quality you have anyway. But some people will be like, oh, well, I didn't see my dad did do nothing.
Yeah.
So okay, you saying it's about training there. Okay, I'll give you an example. So coming up, I didn't really see my father doing a lot of did household chores and whatnot, but in terms of like maybe sort of techie stuff around the house, you know what I mean, building and whatnot. I didn't see him do that, but I've learnt to do. Coming into my own manhood, I had to learn to do that to be able to enhance my relationship. Even though I didn't see my father doing it, my father would bring help in from outside and get those things done.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the traditional thing, I don't know, but you know, he had his own niche in certain things, yeah? So, but I've noticed that to be kind of more rounded, I will then have to take up those things and learn as I went along to do them. So I'm just trying to play advocate here in the sense that it's not always about what you've seen or how you've been trained up. There's certain, maybe your environment as well. Does your environment as well sort of dictate?
But then was
That-
that for you to do that, to do all the technical stuff, was that more of an interest, or did you feel like it was something that you had to acquire in order to, do you know what I mean?
I think it was an interest that turned into something that, yes, in order to learn, because I always believe that, you know, we wake up every day and we're learning. We've got to be learning. You can't just be sort of one way. So it makes you more rounded and more kind of versatile. Yeah, so I'm saying in the same respect then, if we're talking about as a guy doing the cooking, the cleaning, certain chores, these are all things just to do with your own personal habitat, aren't they? It's just you know? You as a person, yeah?
Again, in society, they would say man doing cooking and cleaning is not masculine. So, yeah, like.
But then I just think that's so.
But then it comes, like you said, if you live on your own now, like who's doing it for you? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And then some of the best chefs are men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of
True.
the best
And hairdressers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
So what is masculine?
Literally,
Yeah.
I just think in period in life, like just to know if your situation was to change tomorrow, like I don't have to depend on no one.
Nobody.
Yeah.
I feel
Exactly.
like,
Good
I feel
point,
like me
yeah.
as a man, that's like my priority. Like I want to be
So-
someone that people can depend on, but as well be independent to myself. Like,
Definitely,
I'm
definitely.
good if anything happens. So
Just on that point there, John, I've got a note in here. Someone's just written in here. It says, look, you may have been born a male, but you must become a male,
We've got a lot of grown
right?
boys.
You may have
around.
been born a male, but you must actually become a male. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that
man.
statement?
Yeah, I
definitely.
do.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are grown that have that Peter Pan complex.
Yeah.
They still think they're children. Like,
Yeah.
you're a big man, like, do you know what I mean?
The thing is, it's not even that they think they're children. You get some guys out there that will beat their chest and say, I'm a man, and this and that, but they behave. Like,
Characteristics and how they carry
they
themselves. Yeah.
act so,
But what do you think causes that? Is it insecurity? Is it
I think that
discontent with
sometimes
themselves
they
as a
can be
man?
a
Or?
bit stuck. They can
In
be
what
a
way?
bit like,
I think it's the environment as well.
yeah.
I think it's definitely if it's a man and he's hanging around with this same group of people and they all act like children, then where's the growth? Whereas if it's a man and he's always talking to like older people and he's obviously going to become a bit more wiser. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like it's the environment, and also some people just don't want to grow up. Some people don't want to. Some people want to.
Fearful,
Yeah, some people
Is
like
it
to
fear?
stay in that same position.
Okay.
So
True. But life's about experiences as well. So as a man, you're supposed to go on a journey where you experience different things that can elevate your growth. And if you're elevating your growth through experiences, you should then get key traits that will stand out because you're always evolving into a better person, if that makes sense. Rather than staying in the same place, around the same things, just and saying, oh, but this is what it is. This is
Yeah,
I'm from here, innit? Like, do you know
So
what
it's
I
all
mean?
perception again, though, isn't it? It's all about what you how you see yourself, you know, how you sort of aspire and so on. But let me ask you this way, John. So do you think that, are you a believer then that everybody has a certain gift or something planted inside them?
I feel like,
or talent?
Yeah, I feel like you've got a talent, and you can kind of either nurture that talent, or I feel like you can kind of train yourself to do something different. Either or. But I feel like it all comes down to like your drive though, and then what you want to kind of put in.
Your passion,
you're
yeah?
you're going to get out.
Okay. So you personally then, I want to put it back on you now. You talked about your mates. What would you, as a young person, what would you like to see more from maybe the older generation then? You talked about role models and so on. What would you like to see more of in terms of that kind of example being sort of paid forward to you to bring yourself through?
Probably more cohesion. So when it comes to like, saying you're trying to do something, you're trying to start something up, people coming together, networking better, just trying to do something together.
You want to see this more amongst the older men, for example?
Yeah, and then even getting involved, like trying to, like lead by example, almost type of thing. Okay. So I feel like sometimes we let our egos get in the way a lot, because that's a big part of the male experience. I think ego. Yes. Like,
right. Now we're getting in there. Now we're okay.
I deal with my ego every day. That I feel like.
How do you deal with it? How do you deal with it, Joe? I'm interested. How do you deal with it? How do you beat up the ego?
One still.
Talk to us. Tell us.
Because sometimes I let my ego get the better of me, or my pride, or whatever. But that's a draw out, man. That's like it can get. You need to just keep it in check. Make sure that that's not the base of your decisions, because I feel like that's real toxic.
Well, just to reassure you, I think everybody here has that battle. Yeah, I think everybody has that, that sort of gremlin to deal with. So, I mean, what would you say, Venice, the ego thing, especially the male, not so much female, but the male ego. Do you think it's a big issue?
It's a big issue, 100%. And I feel like as a woman, for instance, I've had like loads of arguments regarding like, we could be talking on a topic and like, instead of us, where I would be really calm, they'll act like the aggressor, like, getting whatnot. And it's because I feel like, because I'm a woman, they feel like my value, my points, they're not valued. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like, I actually know what I'm talking about, or we're basing it on my opinion. Okay. And
how do you deal with it? How do you actually deal with it? Yeah. You rise to it, or how do you, I
rise to it. I'm not gonna lie, I rise to it, because at the end of the day, my opinion is my opinion, your opinion is your opinion. Sometimes I just leave the discussion to say, you know what, we can agree to disagree. At the end of the day, your opinions based on your experiences is not fact. So it's just, letting them know that. But I do rise up to it. It's hard not to, because we all want to be right. No one wants to be wrong. So I think that's all of our egos. But I feel like for a woman, like with a man, like we're having a big debate, I feel like they can get a bit too much because they are men, and that's what I don't like, and that's why I rise up. And that's what it is.
And I think rightfully so though. To be able to express yourself and then not get like shone down. I feel like, I know for me, it's like different ticks, I'd say. Like, say if I'm having a conversation with someone, they got a different perspective, that's not something that's going to necessarily trigger my pride or something. But if it's something where I feel like, I've been directly like disrespected or something like that, then I feel like that's when it starts. Like having a part to play. Yeah.
That's like me.
A lot of times in discussions though, people focus on tone. Why are you focusing on how something sounds? If you was just listening, some people talk with passion. They might not necessarily be in the aggressor act.
Very good.
So you hear something, and it's because it sounds a certain way, your brain automatically tells you, I need to respond in a certain way. But then if you just gave that person the benefit of the doubt, it's not always easy, but the benefit of doubt, to hear them out, maybe your response would be so different. But because you focus on tone, that sounded funny to me. Do you know what I mean?
But it's delivery though. You can deliver your message in a...
Again, that's tone though.
I know, like I could be reading something and I'm just like, hold on.
Okay, yeah, but some people.
You gotta go back to its tone.
Yeah,
that's
it's
what
tone. Or even when you're communicating with someone through message. People read things how they read things. So that's why things are always misunderstood through messages and that, because people read things just how they go back over it, read it again. It's like, well, I didn't even need to react to it like that. Do you know what I mean? So,
but going back to what you're saying there about the spoken tone, for example, like you know, I was going to give one of my own examples. Like me, I speak very. It sounds like I speak very dominant, right? But so in the house, my house is like, look, why are you shouting? I'm not shouting. I'm just talking very directly and very passionately. But it may come across, you know, in a negative way. But I think again that goes to some of that. I think goes back to culture, because obviously where we're from, you know, you that's what you hear. That's the environment that you're in. That's the space that you're in. So, but it doesn't mean that you're being aggressive. You can hear different language, for example. People, it sounds like they're actually fighting and arguing, and they're actually saying, "I love you." Yeah. You know what I mean? So. It's again, the tone thing comes in, but culture, I think there's got a bit of a, it's got a sort of cross into as well.
There has to be a balance though. There has to be a balance, because again, with tone, you know when someone's being disrespectful with tone, innit? But then you should also be able to difference when someone's just speaking assertively. It's not necessarily they're trying to come across and be rude. But you can, if we try to spend less time focusing on how things sound, or just listening to respond. A lot of people in a conversation listen just to respond. They ain't heard what's been said. They're just gonna respond. They'll let you speak, and then respond, and then you'll be like, "Wait, but did you just hear what I said?" Like, do you know what I mean? So
definitely.
It's about balancing the communication.
Okay. So before we end up this little segment here, because we want to talk about the road issue, leaving the road life. But I just want to end this particular bit. As we're saying, somebody put a question, a thing here. It says, okay, the strength of a man is his faith in God. Now I'm throwing this out there. It's not we're not a religious program or anything like that, but is that a fair point? Is that something that you could draw anything from? Because we've talked about physical strength all the while now. Yeah. But there's got to be other elements that form. I think about character, strength of character. Yeah, go on.
No, I was gonna say, because I really think, like, more so down to your, like, the person you are. It comes down to like your values.
So this is like when we're talking, this is like sort of going into your essence, isn't it? Yeah. Into who you are. Because we tend to focus more on outward showing, don't we? We're not really looking at the inner self. Well, we need something that's got to project to make that outward shell sort of come alive in the first place, don't we?
I suppose being in touch with your spiritual side is important, but to say just being in touch with your spiritual side is the makeup of a strong man, it's a bit sketchy. Like, it's like, understand you are one within the universe and that principles and that, because there's people that are men of God and they contradict themselves, do you understand? So we can't just base it on religion. Like, again, it comes down to like values and principles.
As a man, do you think it's important to have, you know, obviously the man in the house, role model? Is it more important for, as a male, to have a male role model?
Yeah. I feel like.
Is it more important for a man than a woman? Would you say?
I feel like it's important for both, but I can only speak
from
my perspective. I know it's important, kind of like having. I know the men in my life played a big role in terms of my definition of a man. Good, yeah. I mean, in my family and kind of things like that. So that's kind of defined my perception, which is like my reality. So
good. So it's giving you a foundation then to obviously build from and lift off.
My views. Yeah.
Brilliant.
I think both children need their parents.
Definitely.
But like, I think when you've got a son, a woman cannot teach a boy how to be a
There's
man.
only so much you can do.
So when he gets to a certain age and starts towering over her, and do you know what I mean? Like, there's it becomes difficult. I feel like there needs to be another man that can, you know, they have that. There's levels, isn't it?
Yeah, obviously there needs to be, but I know so many men that didn't have their fathers, and their mothers taught them like the respect and stuff. So they didn't have to. The mothers didn't have to worry about them doing this or them doing that, or, you know, towering over, like you said, because there was respect. I do think that it should be, you know, two-parent household, but then you get some households where they have two parents and they're not teaching the children anything. So I don't think it's kind of like a catch-20, 21, 22, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
But
I don't necessarily mean like in the house, because like just because people are not together, so it's like, for instance, just because a man and a woman, they have a child and they're not together, it doesn't mean that that man is now not in that child's life.
Yeah,
Do you get what I mean? Like, so I think there's a difference between being a single
person
parent and co-parenting.
person.
Do you know what I mean? Type of thing. So I think like just because it didn't work out between a man and a woman doesn't mean that they cannot be a father or a mother to their child. Do you know what I mean? You know, it might work so much better when they're not living in the same household.
Okay, because we're going to extend this out a bit, because we mentioned about the family issue, and I think sometimes, I'll just throw this out there again, look, so when we talk about family, it doesn't necessarily mean just the immediate family nucleus.
Yeah.
When we can talk about extended family. So for example, there's still a male influence within that family network. Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily have to be within, you know what I mean, the mother of the child and whatnot. But as long as there's a male in that environment, do you think that's something that's very important? Yeah, and something that
you take reference from every male in your family, because you've seen different versions of a man.
Sure.
You know what I mean, and think, okay, that like you're associating different kind of aspects of manhood with each different man in your kind of family.
Sure.
Those uncles.
That's right.
Obviously, your dad's your first initial one, but then you're looking at your cousins, your uncles, and these all kind of like make up like what you believe at the end of the day.
Yeah. Okay, I think we've rounded it. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
I was gonna say, I always used to say this to my friend. It must be really hard being a man. Like, I feel like you guys got a lot.
Really? But if I'm gonna put my bit in there as a guy. I've got to join you guys in this whole thing. Look, as a man, I think that we're equipped, to handle the pressure. I'm not saying ladies aren't, but I think it's something that we've got to sort of embrace as men and know that it's not always just going to be one easy road like that. And as you mentioned before, Jade, when you have the doubt, the pitfalls, they're all part of the bringing you back up. So life's what they call peaks and troughs, hills and valleys. So all those pressures there's a saying that goes, look, if it doesn't kill you, it can only make you stronger. Yeah. So that whole aspect there, what you're saying, it's a case of, it's something that we have to learn to embrace and take on, be able to then pay that forward and use that as a kind of voice of experience, if you like, or a role modeling experience to younger males coming up, and just spread that out through all parts of the family. Because from a male perspective, we can turn around and say, well, look, women then, I don't know how you do it. Look, I'm in a household of women, for example, right? And when my wife and my daughter start giving it all that, I've got to just say, look, you know what, later, I step out the door. So, it's got of swings and roundabouts,
That's that real talk.